I was already driving when the call came through again. Not from dispatch this time, just through the radio. No warning tone, no click. It just bled in like it had been playing underneath everything the whole time and suddenly got louder. Hello? The voice was calm. Too calm. Not scared, not rushed. Just flat. I tightened my grip on the steering wheel without really thinking about it. The headlights were cutting through the trees, but it didn't feel like they were reaching very far tonight, like the dark was just sitting closer than usual. Unit 12, confirmed status, dispatch said, breaking in over the channel. I exhaled. I didn't realize I'd been holding my breath. Yeah, I'm here, I said, still en route. A pause. Then, hello? Same voice, same tone, exactly the same. I frowned, glancing at the radio like that would somehow explain it. Dispatch, you hearing that? I asked. Another pause, longer this time. Negative, Unit 12. Hearing what? I didn't answer straight away because the voice didn't stop. Can anyone hear me? No static, no distortion, just clean, close, too close. I've got a repeat transmission, I said, trying to keep my voice level. The caller sounds like it's coming through again. Unit 12, we only received one call. It was incomplete. We couldn't trace it. I felt that sit wrong immediately. Then how did you route me out here? We got partial coordinates. Nearest match puts you about 10 minutes out. I glanced at the GPS mounted on the dash. The map was still loading, flickering slightly, like it couldn't decide where I was. Hello? There it was again. Same spacing, same tone, like someone pressing replay. I slowed the vehicle just a little. Dispatch, you said the call was incomplete, right? Affirmative. Did they say anything besides that? A brief shuffle of papers, or maybe just radio noise. Just a greeting, dispatch replied. We couldn't establish further contact. I stared at the road ahead because that didn't make sense. The voice on my radio wasn't just saying hello once, it was looping. Can anyone hear me? I don't know why, but something about that second line that wasn't in the report made my chest feel tight, like I'd missed something important, or like I wasn't supposed to be hearing it at all. I reached for the volume knob, hesitated, then turned it down slightly. The voice didn't get quieter. If anything, it sounded closer. I stopped touching the radio after that. Just kept driving. Trees on both sides, no wind, no movement, just that narrow road cutting straight through the dark. And that voice. Hello? Night shifts out here were usually predictable. Quiet in a way that felt earned. You'd get the occasional lost hiker, maybe someone ignoring closure signs, sometimes a broken down vehicle near the outer roads. Nothing dramatic, nothing urgent enough to make your chest feel tight like this. Most nights, it was just me, the trees, and the sound of the tires on gravel. I'd been working this park long enough to know its patterns, which trails people used, which ones they avoided, where the signal dropped completely, which was most of it, honestly. Once you got deep enough in, your phone was just dead weight. Radio was the only thing that worked, and even that had its limits. That's why calls like this didn't make sense. If someone was really out here, deep enough that dispatch couldn't trace them properly, they shouldn't have been able to get a call out at all. I've responded to false alarms before. Broken emergency phones, glitched signals bouncing between towers. Once it was just wind hitting a damaged call box in a way that sounded like breathing over the line. Stuff like that, you learn to explain it. You have to. But this... Can anyone hear me? I swallowed, shifting slightly in my seat. It wasn't distorted. It wasn't cutting in and out. It sounded like someone standing right next to the mic, speaking normally, calmly, like they weren't even in danger. And that's what bothered me the most. People in real emergencies don't sound like that. They rush, they stumble, they repeat themselves differently every time. They sound human. This didn't. I checked the clock on the dashboard. Too late for hikers. Way too late. The park technically closed hours ago, but people still slipped in sometimes. Campers, photographers, the occasional idiot looking for something off the map. But even then, they stayed near the marked areas. Where I was heading now, I wasn't one of them. I glanced at the GPS again. Still flickering. The route line would appear for a second, then disappear, then redraw itself slightly off from where the road actually was, like it was trying to correct something, but couldn't. "Dispatch?" I said, pressing the radio button again. "Confirm those coordinates one more time." A burst of static. Then, "Unit 1-2, signal is weak. Repeat." Of course it was. I adjusted the radio slightly, leaning closer without thinking. "Coordinates for the call," I said. "I'm getting inconsistent mapping out here." A pause. Longer than it should have been. Then a partial response, cutting in and out. "Bearings, same as before. You're close." The signal dropped. Just like that. I kept the button pressed for a second longer, then let go. Silence filled the cab again. No wind outside, no movement in the trees. Not even the usual night sounds. It was still. Too still. I don't know why, but I cracked the window slightly, just to hear something. Nothing came in. No air, no leaves, no distant insects. Just quiet. "Hello?" I froze. The voice again. Same tone, same spacing, unchanged. I didn't even look at the radio this time, just stared straight ahead at the road. Because I was starting to realize something I didn't like. The further I drove, the clearer it sounded. Like I wasn't chasing the signal anymore. Like I was getting closer to whatever was sending it. I checked the map one more time. The route had stabilized now, or at least, it stopped flickering. But the path it was showing, that wasn't a main trail. It wasn't even a secondary one. It was leading straight into a part of the park that didn't see regular patrols. No campsites, no public access points. Just miles of forest, unmarked, unlit, and officially unused. I slowed the vehicle slightly. Not enough to stop, just enough to think. Because nothing about this lined up anymore. Not the call, not the signal, not the location. But protocol doesn't care about that. A call comes in, you respond. Even if it doesn't make sense. Even if something about it feels off. I exhaled slowly, tightened my grip on the wheel again, and kept driving. I should have turned around right there. I know that now. But at the time, it didn't feel like a decision. Just the next thing to do. The road narrowed the further I went in. Gravel gave way to packed dirt, then something uneven, like the path hadn't been maintained in a while. The vehicle started to shake slightly beneath me, subtle at first, then just enough to notice. I glanced at the GPS again. It didn't match. The line showed a straight stretch ahead, but the road in front of me curved slightly to the left. Not by much, but enough that it didn't sit right. I slowed down, looked back at the screen, then forward again. Same thing. The map corrected itself after a second, snapping the line to match the curve like it had just realized where I was. Okay, I muttered under my breath. Probably just lag. It happens. Still, I didn't speed back up. The radio crackled softly. Not a full burst of static, just a faint disturbance, like something brushing against the signal. I ignored it, kept driving. Then it happened again. A little louder this time. I reached for the radio, pressed the transmit button. "Dispatch, you still with me?" A pause. Then, 12, copy, signal degrading. Repeat your... The rest dissolved into static. I frowned, adjusting the dial slightly. "Dispatch, I'm losing you. Confirm you can still hear me." Nothing. Just that low, empty hiss. I released the button slowly, and that's when I noticed it. Up ahead, just off the right side of the road, a trail marker. I almost drove past it, but something about it made me ease off the accelerator. It was one of the standard signs: wooden post, reflective plate, directional arrow. Except it was pointing toward the road, not away from it. I slowed to a near stop, headlights fixed on it, because that wasn't how they were placed. Trail markers always pointed into the trail, away from the road, guiding people deeper in, not back out. This one, it looked like it had been turned around. Or worse, like it always had been facing the wrong way. I stared at it for a few seconds longer than I should have, then shook it off. Someone probably messed with it. Happens. Yeah, that made sense. I pressed the accelerator again, kept moving. But the feeling didn't go away. If anything, it settled in deeper. The trees seemed closer now, thicker, blocking out what little light the sky had left. The road tightened further, narrowing into something that barely felt official anymore. And then, I saw the gate. It came into view suddenly, just past a bend. Metal, park issued, old but solid. I knew that gate, or at least I was supposed to, because according to every map I'd ever used, that section was closed off, restricted access, no entry beyond that point without clearance. I slowed again, heart rate picking up just slightly. The gate wasn't damaged, wasn't broken. It was just open. Not wide, not fully. Just enough for a vehicle to pass through. I stopped the truck completely this time, engine idling softly, headlights fixed straight ahead. I didn't move for a few seconds, just sat there, staring. Because gates like that don't get left open, not accidentally. Not out here. I reached for the radio again, pressed down. "Dispatch, I've reached a restricted gate on the east sector. It's open. Can you confirm if there's any authorized activity in this area?" Static. Then, "No scheduled. Unit 12, your signal..." Gone again. I frowned slightly, jaw tightening. "Of course," I muttered. For a second, I considered turning back, just reporting it, letting someone else deal with it in daylight. That would have been the smart call. But then, "Hello?" I froze. The voice. Again. But this time, it wasn't clear. It was faint, like it was coming from farther away, or buried under something. I didn't touch the radio. Didn't move at all. Just listened. "Hello? Can anyone hear me?" It dragged slightly at the end. Not like before. Before, it was clean, precise, identical every time. Now, it sounded worn. Like it had been played too many times. Or like something was interfering with it. I leaned closer to the radio without realizing. The signal dipped, then came back, and for a second, just a second, I heard it overlap. Two versions of the same voice, out of sync. One clear, one delayed. Hello, hello. My stomach dropped. I pulled my hand back immediately. Didn't touch anything, didn't breathe properly. Because the radio, it wasn't receiving a transmission. It was replaying it on its own. And it wasn't doing it right. I looked past the open gate, into the dark stretch of road beyond it. No lights, no movement, nothing. Just that same heavy stillness. Waiting. Hello? Can anyone hear me? This time, I didn't answer. I just stared ahead. Then, slowly, shifted the vehicle into gear and drove through the open gate. The moment I passed the gate, something shifted. Not visibly, nothing dramatic, but it felt like crossing a line you weren't supposed to notice. The road didn't change much at first. Still narrow, still uneven, but there were no markers anymore. No signs, no posts, no reflective strips on the trees. Just road and forest. I checked the GPS again. The route was still there, but now it didn't even try to match the terrain. The line cut straight through the trees ahead, ignoring the bends but dips, like the system had given up on accuracy and was just pointing somewhere. I zoomed out. There were no labeled paths in this section. No trails, no zones, no reference points. Just a blank stretch of mapped green. I felt a slow, creeping tension settle in my chest, because I knew this area, at least on paper. There was nothing out here. No campsites, no maintenance routes, no emergency infrastructure, and definitely no reason for anyone to be calling for help. "Dispatch," I said, pressing the radio again. "I need confirmation on this location." Static answered me. Louder now, more aggressive. I adjusted the dial. Nothing. "Dispatch, come in." The static spiked, then cut. Dead silence. I stared at the radio for a second. Tapped it once. Nothing. "Hello?" I flinched. The voice. Again. Clearer now. Closer. Like it had moved from somewhere distant to right inside the cab. "Can anyone hear me?" Same words, same tone, unchanged, but louder. I didn't respond. Didn't even reach for the radio this time, because I was starting to understand something I didn't want to. This wasn't a conversation. It never had been. I slowed the vehicle again. The headlights swept across the ground ahead, and that's when I saw them. Footprints. Faint at first, then clearer as I rolled closer. I opened the door slowly. The quiet outside hit immediately. Thick, heavy. I stepped out, closed the door behind me. The engine idled low and steady, but it felt distant somehow, like it wasn't part of the same space anymore. I crouched slightly, looking at the prints. They led off the road, into the trees. I hesitated, then followed them a few steps. Branches cracked softly under my boots. The beam from the truck's headlights barely reached this far. I took out my flashlight, switched it on. The beam cut through the dark, landing directly on the next set of prints. Still there, still clear. I took another step, then another, following the line, until I stopped, because the footprints just ended. No turn, no shift, no sign of someone stepping aside or changing direction. They didn't fade. They didn't get lighter. They just stopped, mid-step, like the person was walking and then wasn't there anymore. I stood there for a second, staring at the ground, trying to make sense of it, trying to find anything I missed. There had to be something. A rock, a harder patch of dirt, a break in the soil. But there wasn't. Just that last print, and nothing beyond it. Hello? I snapped my head up. The voice, louder now, closer than before. Not from the radio, from the truck. I turned back toward it. The interior light flickered faintly. The radio. It was on. I was sure I'd turned it off. Can anyone hear me? Same sentence, again and again. No variation, no urgency, just repetition. I walked back slowly, each step feeling heavier than it should. The voice kept playing, perfectly timed, like a loop that couldn't break. I reached the open door, looked inside. The radio display was glitching, numbers flickering too fast to read. The speaker crackled, then stabilized. Can anyone hear me? Clear, clean, right next to me. I leaned in slightly, and for a second, I thought I heard something else underneath it. Not words, just movement. A second layer, barely there, like someone trying to speak, but never quite reaching the surface. I pulled back immediately, heart beating faster now, because this wasn't equipment failure. Equipment fails randomly. This was consistent, controlled, repeating the same thing over and over again. I looked back toward the trees, at the place where the footprints pended, then back at the radio. Can anyone hear me? I swallowed, and for the first time since the call came in, I actually asked the question out loud. Is that even a person? The radio didn't respond. It just kept going, unchanged, unaware, like it wasn't waiting for an answer at all. And that's when everything started getting worse. The headlights flickered, once, then again. The engine stuttered slightly, then corrected itself. The GPS screen went black, then came back on, zoomed all the way out. No map, no route, just a blinking dot. And it wasn't steady. It shifted slightly, back and forth, like it couldn't decide where I was. The radio volume spiked suddenly. Hello! I flinched, stepping back from the door. Then it dropped again. Can anyone hear me? Calm, flat, unchanged, like nothing had happened. I stood there, frozen for a second, trying to think, trying to make sense of any of it. But the deeper I went into it, the less it held together. Because nothing about this felt random anymore. Not the call, not the location, not the way everything was slowly falling apart around me. It felt structured, like I was being led, step by step, further in, and I couldn't shake the feeling that whatever made that call wasn't lost, it wasn't confused, it wasn't even trying to get help. Can anyone hear me?
I don't know why to decide to move again, but I was back in the truck, engine running, hands on the wheel, driving deeper, slowly, like I'd already accepted something without fully understanding it. The GPS was useless now, just a blinking dot shifting slightly in place. No map, no direction. But I kept going anyway, because the voice, hello? It wasn't just coming from the radio anymore. It was outside, faint, barely there, but real. I rolled the window down a little more, and there it was again. Can anyone hear me? Carried through the trees, not loud, not echoing, just present. Like someone standing somewhere ahead speaking at a normal volume. I followed it, not consciously, just adjusted the wheel slightly, letting the road guide me forward. The headlights caught something eventually, a structure, low, half hidden behind the trees. I slowed to a stop, engine idling, because that shouldn't have been there. I knew this area, or at least I was supposed to. Nothing was mapped out here, no facilities, no stations, no emergency points. But right in front of me was a ranger outpost, old, wooden, the kind they stopped using years ago. No lights, no markings visible from a distance, just a dark shape sitting quietly in the middle of nowhere. I didn't get out immediately, just sat there, staring at it, trying to remember if I'd ever seen it on a map or heard about it in training, anything, but nothing came to mind. Hello? The voice again, clearer now, and this time it didn't come from the radio. It came from the building. I felt something drop in my stomach, a slow, heavy realization settling in. I turned the engine off. The silence that followed was immediate, complete. And in that silence, hello? It came again, from inside. Same tone, same spacing, exactly the same as before. Like it wasn't being spoken, just played. I opened the door slowly, stepped out. The air felt wrong. Not cold, not warm, just still. Like the space itself wasn't moving. I approached the building carefully, each step deliberate, measured. The wooden structure creaked slightly as I got closer, not from wind, just from age. The door was already open, not wide, just enough. I stopped a few feet away, listening. Hello? From inside. No variation, no change, just repetition. I pushed the door slightly. It creaked open further. The smell hit first. Dust, old wood, something stale, like a place that hadn't been used in years. My flashlight beam cut into the dark. Slow sweep. Desk, shelves, a chair knocked slightly off position. Everything looked abandoned, frozen. And then I saw it, mounted on the wall, an emergency phone box. Old model, outdated by at least a decade. The casing was cracked, the paint faded, and the receiver, it wasn't hanging properly. It rested slightly off the hook, like it had been picked up and not placed back correctly. Hello? The sound came from it, not through speakers, not through radio, from the box itself. Clear, mechanical, looping. I stepped closer, slowly, heart beating harder now, because something about it didn't line up. Emergency systems don't work like this. They don't just repeat messages. Not unless... I reached out, hesitated, then gently touched the receiver. It was cold, too cold. I lifted it slightly. The voice didn't change, didn't react, didn't stop. Hello? Still playing, still looping. Like it didn't care whether anyone was actually listening. And that's when it clicked. Not all at once, just enough. The call, the voice, the repetition, the location. This wasn't someone trying to reach out. It never was. It was coming from this place. And whatever was recorded here wasn't alone anymore. Hello? This time, it didn't sound like it was asking. It sounded like it already knew the answer. I slowly lowered the receiver back into place, but it didn't settle correctly. It hung slightly off again, and the voice kept going, unchanged, endless. Hello? I backed up slowly, trying to process it, trying to make it make sense. But then, something moved behind me, soft, subtle, like a foot shifting weight on old wood. I turned instantly, flashlight snapping toward the doorway. Nothing. Just the open entrance, dark forest beyond. Still. I held the beam there for a few seconds, listening. Nothing. No footsteps. No breathing. No movement. I exhaled slowly, turned back toward the phone, and froze. Because for a second, just a fraction of a second, I thought the receiver had moved. Not fallen, not dropped, just shifted. Like someone had adjusted it slightly. I stepped closer again, carefully, watching it, waiting. Hello? Same voice, same loop. I glanced around the room again. Corners, shadows, doorway. Nothing. No one. But the feeling, it was different now. Heavier. Closer. Like something had stepped in quietly, without needing to be seen. I backed away slowly, toward the doorway, not turning my back this time, just moving, step by step. The voice continued behind me, unchanged, endless. Hello? I reached the doorway, stepped outside. The air hit again, still, silent. But now, there was something else. A faint sound from somewhere in the trees. Movement, slow, careful, circling. I turned the flashlight toward it. Nothing. No figure, no shape, just darkness between the trunks. But I could hear it. Not walking, not running, just shifting. Like something adjusting its position every time I tried to focus on it. And then, hello? Not from the building, not from the phone, from the trees. Closer. I didn't move, didn't speak, because I understood it now, fully, completely. The call wasn't coming from someone. It never was. It was coming from this place. And whatever was recorded here wasn't alone anymore. Hello? This time, it didn't sound like it was asking. It sounded like it already knew the answer.
I don't know why, and don't remember turning back. Just being in the truck again. Door shut. Engine running. Hands tight on the wheel. Breathing a little too fast. The building was still there in the mirrors for a while. Then it wasn't. Just trees again. Dark, still, endless. I didn't look back after that. Didn't slow down. Didn't try to follow the road properly either. Just kept moving forward until the path started to feel familiar again. Or at least less wrong. The radio stayed on the whole time. I didn't touch it. Didn't adjust the volume, didn't try to call dispatch again. Because even when it went quiet, I didn't trust it. It felt like one of those moments where something stops, but hasn't actually ended. Like it's just waiting. The GPS came back eventually. Not all at once, just flickered back into place. Road lines reappearing. labels loading in, like nothing had happened. I followed it out without questioning it. Didn't check coordinates, didn't double back, just let it guide me until I hit the main road again. And the second I did, everything felt normal. Too normal. The trees spaced out again. The road widened, and the silence, it changed. There was wind now. Faint, but there. Leaves moving, branches shifting, like the forest had decided to exist again. I didn't realize how wrong it had been until that moment. I reached for the radio slowly. Pressed down. Dispatch, Unit 12. A pause. Then, Unit 12, we've been trying to reach you. Signal dropped completely. Status? Clear. Stable. Like it had never cut out. I swallowed. Looked at the road ahead. I'm back on the main route. No contact made. Area appears inactive. That wasn't a lie. Not exactly. Another pause. Then, copy that. Log it as a failed distress trace. Likely equipment fault. Equipment fault. I nodded slightly, even though they couldn't see me. Yeah, I said quietly. Probably. The rest of the drive back was uneventful. No more interference, no voice, no glitches. Just the usual hum of the engine and the occasional radio check-in. By the time I reached the station, it almost felt distant. Like something I'd imagined after being out too long. Too quiet. Too alone. I filed the report the same way I always did. Time of call, approximate location, signal inconsistency, possible outdated infrastructure interference. I didn't mention the building. Didn't mention the footprints. Didn't mention the voice coming from outside the radio. Because none of that would have made sense on paper. And I wasn't interested in trying to explain it. A couple days later, the report came back reviewed. Short, clean, marked under routine anomalies. No escalation, no follow-up, no missing persons matching the timeline, nothing in the system. Just one added note. The area I'd entered, it was quietly reclassified as non-essential access. No explanation attached, no alert sent out, just updated. Like it had always been that way. I read that line a couple times, then closed the file. Told myself it was fine, that places get reclassified all the time, that old equipment fails, that signals bounce, loop, repeat. There's always a reason. There has to be. I went back to my usual shifts after that. Same routes, same routines, same quiet nights.
And for a while, it stayed that way. Normal.
Or close enough to it. But every now and then, when the radio sat just a little too still, and the silence stretched a bit longer than it should, I'd catch myself listening. Not for anything specific, just waiting, in case it started again. I don't remember turning back, just being in the truck again. Door shut, engine running, hands tight on the wheel, breathing a little too fast. The building was still there in the mirrors for a while. Then it wasn't. Just trees again. Dark, still, endless. I didn't look back after that. Didn't slow down. Didn't try to follow the road properly either. Just kept moving forward until the path started to feel familiar again, or at least less wrong. The radio stayed on the whole time. I didn't touch it, didn't adjust the volume, didn't try to call dispatch again, because even when it went quiet, I didn't trust it. It felt like one of those moments where something stops but hasn't actually ended, like it's just waiting. The GPS came back eventually, not all at once, just flickered back into place, road lines reappearing, labels loading in, like nothing had happened. I followed it out without questioning it, didn't check coordinates, didn't double back, just let it guide me until I hit the main road again. And the second I did, everything felt normal, too normal. The trees spaced out again, the road widened, and the silence, it changed. There was wind now, faint, but there. Leaves moving, branches shifting, like the forest had decided to exist again. I didn't realize how wrong it had been until that moment. I reached for the radio slowly, pressed down. Dispatch? Unit 12. A pause. Then, Unit 12, we've been trying to reach you. Signal dropped completely. Status? Clear. Stable. Like it had never cut out. I swallowed, looked at the road ahead. I'm back on the main route. No contact made. Area appears inactive. That wasn't a lie. Not exactly. Another pause. Then, copy that. Log it as a failed distress trace. Likely equipment fault. Equipment fault. I nodded slightly, even though they couldn't see me. Yeah, I said quietly. Probably. The rest of the drive back was uneventful. No more interference, no voice, no glitches, just the usual hum of the engine and the occasional radio check-in. By the time I reached the station, it almost felt distant, like something I'd imagined after being out too long, too quiet, too alone. I filed the report the same way I always did. Time of call, approximate location, signal inconsistency, possible outdated infrastructure interference. I didn't mention the building, didn't mention the footprints, didn't mention the voice coming from outside the radio, because none of that would have made sense on paper, and I wasn't interested in trying to explain it. A couple days later, the report came back reviewed. Short, clean, marked under routine anomalies. No escalation, no follow-up, no missing persons matching the timeline, nothing in the system. Just one added note. The area I'd entered, it was quietly reclassified, non-essential access. No explanation attached, no alert sent out, just updated, like it had always been that way. I read that line a few times, then closed the file. Told myself it was fine, that places get reclassified all the time, that old equipment fails, that signals bounce, loop, repeat. There's always a reason. There has to be. I went back to my usual shifts after that. Same routes, same routines, same quiet nights.
And for a while, it stayed that way. Normal, or close enough to it. But every now and then, when the radio sat just a little too still and the silence stretched a bit longer than it should, I'd catch myself listening. Not for anything specific, just waiting, in case it started again. It was about 3 weeks later. Nothing unusual had happened since. No strange calls, no signal issues, no reports from that sector. Just the same routine, night after night. Long drives, empty roads, quiet radio. I'd almost convinced myself it was over, or at least contained. Something tied to that place, left behind there. I stopped thinking about it, stopped checking the logs, stopped replaying it in my head. Until that night. I wasn't even in the field, just sitting at the station desk filling out paperwork, half paying attention to the radio chatter in the background. Different units checking in, routine updates, nothing important. The kind of noise you stop really hearing after a while. I leaned back slightly, stretched my shoulders, and that's when it cut through. Not loud, not sudden, just wrong. Hello? I froze, my pen still in my hand, because I knew that voice. Immediately. No confusion, no doubt. Same tone, same flat delivery. Exactly the same. I didn't move at first, just listened, waiting for someone else to react, for dispatch to question it, for another unit to respond. But nothing happened. The chatter continued, normal, uninterrupted, like it had never even been there. Can you hear me? My chest tightened. I slowly turned toward the radio, staring at it, trying to figure out which channel it came from, because it wasn't the active one. It couldn't be. There was no break in transmission, no overlap. It just slipped in, between everything, perfectly placed, like it had always been part of the feed. I reached for the controls, hesitated, then switched channels, one by one, listening. Static, clear lines, routine traffic, nothing. I switched back, sat there, waiting. Silence. For a few seconds, I almost let it go, almost convinced myself I'd imagined it, that it was just memory slipping through at the wrong time. Then, the screen flickered, just once, barely noticeable, but enough. A new line appeared, incoming call, no ID, no location data, no trace. I stared at it, didn't answer immediately, because I already knew. Before it even connected, I knew what I was going to hear. The speaker clicked softly, and then, hello? Same tone, again, unchanged, like no time had passed, like it wasn't being transmitted, just repeated. I looked at the system screen, trying to find anything, origin point, signal strength, anything that made sense. There was nothing, no data, no trace, just an open line. I swallowed, forced myself to speak. This is Unit 12. Identify yourself. For the first time, the voice didn't repeat immediately. There was a gap, a small one, but enough to notice, enough to feel different. My grip tightened slightly, because that had never happened before. The silence stretched, just for a second longer than it should, and then, hello? Same tone again, like it had reset, like it didn't hear me at all. I felt something cold settle in my chest. Not fear, not panic, just understanding, slow, heavy, final. It wasn't responding, it wasn't interacting, it wasn't trying to communicate, it didn't even know I was there. It was just playing, over and over and over again. I lowered the receiver slowly, didn't hang it up right away, just held it there, listening to the loop continue, because now it didn't feel distant anymore. It didn't feel tied to that place, or that building, or that phone box. It felt loose, uncontained, like it had found another path through, another system, still running, still repeating. Hello? I looked up, slowly, because that one didn't come from the radio, and it sounded closer.